Hello and welcome to another tutorial. In this tutorial I'll be going over a workflow that I would recommend for making a 3D montage. You can use this as a template to guide you along the steps that you'll need to take, and as you get used to the software and you develop your own flow and your way of doing things, of course adjust it to your liking. This is just a template so that you have a rough idea of the stuff that you need to do and maybe the recommended order just to save time and stuff like that. This workflow is primarily for the Blender workflow. If you're going to be using something like Unreal Engine, for the most part everything will still apply. This goes for the same with any post-production software, so whether it be After Effects, DaVinci Resolve, Nuke, all that sort of stuff. Again, it may vary slightly. But with that being said, let's get started. One of the first things that I recommend that you could do is to come up with a story or an idea, or maybe something you want to portray. This will help a lot and it will also engage the viewer. It can be more fun. You sort of take your viewers on a story, or you could portray some sort of message, or just to do something that's going to be more engaging, or maybe just fun for you to make. Depending on how you want to do it, you could make a story first. If you wanted to make a story, you don't have to, but if you do make a story, you can make the story first and then find music that's going to fit the story more primarily based on the mood. Or you could do it a different way where you choose the music first and then you could build your story around the sort of mood and the pace of the music. So the second thing I recommend you to do is to choose your song. Why choose your song? Well, I believe it's going to help you determine how your montage is going to look. It's going to help you determine your 3D environment, the pacing of your montage, the velocity of the kills, the flow, the mood, the emotion behind it. If you have something maybe that's very aggressive, like heavy metal, or if the mood of that song is like anger and rage and despair and whatever, you're going to want to show that in your 3D environment. You know, you're going to have blood or tables everywhere or whatever that depicts anger or the mood of the music to you. But typically you want to match your music and your theme and the emotion and your 3D environment all together so that it fits nicely. And when it comes to selecting your clips, you want it to ideally fit the tempo of the music. If it's slow, you might want to get clips that are split up over longer periods of time compared to if you had a fast tempo like drum and bass. Maybe you want quick successive kills. Again, in post you could probably just edit or adjust this. Again, you can do like velocity editing if you want to. Before we move on to the next one, I just want to play some music real quick and let's just see how it sounds and think about what would suit this music. What's the mood of it, the tempo, what would go with this song? As you can see, it's relatively sad, kind of sorrow, and now it's picking up. There's a bit more momentum, and eventually it'd probably come to like a drop, and then you do like your big finale, for example. You'd have that one kill, that final kill that you want to glorify. It might be like an ace, and sort of have a rough idea and plan out how you're going to execute your 3D scene, your cinematics, and the sort of clips that you're going to want to use. So the second thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pick your clips. Now that you have the song and you have a rough idea of what you want to do, yeah, it's a good time to pick your clips. Also in the music, make sure to choose where you're going to be starting your clip and roughly where you're going to be ending it. Again, this is just going to help with the flow. Obviously, some songs will change in tempo. So, like the one we just listened to, it was a bit slower at the beginning and it started to build up. So, you could have clips that are a little bit slower and then you could have clips that are a little bit faster. And you want to know that your faster clips are going to go in the faster portion of the song. Also, depending on how you're going to sync your clips to the music, it would be a good idea to know how many kills you have and how many. Depending on how you're going to sync it, you typically would do it on like the beat. In addition to that, you might also want to think about the types of weapons that they're using. If you have something that's a lot faster, maybe like a rap song or drill, something with a fast BPM, you might want to consider using a gun that's going to have a better time being able to sync with the music. You could do it with like an AWP, but the best ones that I've seen are the ones that sync the bullets of something like an AK or a P90 or something to a very fast BPM. Sort of how Nikki HD sort of did it. I don't think you would have to be as tight or technical as she tried to do it, but something like that is worth considering. The third thing you're going to want to do is prepare your maps. Import them into Blender, save them, keep them as a base so that you don't have to import them every single time. And when you have found the clip so you know which map it's going to be on, just have a copy, take it, change it to how you want. So apply the skybox, delete the parts of the map that you're not going to need. After that, you're going to want to record your AGR. I also recommend screen recording the clip of your AGR. You might be wondering why. Well, I found that, say you were to take a break from your project, you might forget what your AGR is supposed to look like. You'll have a clip of it. You can watch it, rewatch it, do whatever you want with it. In addition to that, before you use your clips, you can throw your clips of your AGR into post-editing software, video editing software, and try and sync the clips and see if it works with your song before committing to changing all the skins and doing texturing and 3D stuff and whatever. Also, name your AGR once you have done it. Put the weapon name in how many kills it is. It will just make everything so much simpler. It will also just help you with what sound effects are happening. Is stuff being thrown around? Are people shooting? All of that can be easily found in the screen recording that you do of your AGR. On top of that, throw everything into a project file. Keep your AGR there once you've done. Keep your clips there, your screen recording. Have it organized into like materials, saves, resources, so that'll be your screen recording, etc. Just keep it organized, and it will just save you so much time. You won't have stuff disappearing and whatever. Once you have recorded your AGR, import your AGR into the map that is associated with the clip into Blender. After that, you want to parent your AGR recording to an empty actor or object, and you'll do this by doing Shift A and just added an object, Control P to parent, and you want to keep offset. You'll then rotate it. You'll rotate your empty actor by 90 degrees on the Z axis. If it doesn't match your map, keep on rotating it by 90 degrees and you should be able to find it. After that, clean up your AGR recording, delete the models and animations you don't need. And if you didn't delete all of your map, delete some of the parts that you don't need any longer. If you're not sure on how to do any of this process, I will link the Blender playlist tutorial in the description below. I'll also link the Unreal Engine playlist below too. Once you have done all of that, I recommend saving a copy. So this is when your AGR is all in, basically everything is sorted. This is like your base, something that you can revert to if something just goes horribly wrong. Keep this as a copy and work on a different save of your base. Once you have done that, I would recommend calculating or working out what is going in your render. What I mean by this is that in your AGR, you'll have animations, and the animations will typically be linked to guns, for example. When you do a render, you'll have floating guns in your scene and in your render. If you delete these, you're going to lose the animation, so do not delete them. The trick here is to keyframe the render visibility of the skeleton and the weapon. So when you're not choosing the animation, and if it is in frame, then you want to render it and key the visibility so that it cannot be seen. When the animation is in use, you want to make sure that the render visibility is on so that you can see the model and the animation. You're going to want to do this for your whole clip that you're going to use in your montage. Next, I highly recommend you to change the weapon models. What I mean by that is the texturing, or if you know how to change, you can change the weapon models with the associated animation. You can also change the characters, the textures, etc. I recommend that you do this stuff first over the environment. This is because when you're doing your environment, it's typically, depending on the environment, of course, but it'll typically be quite heavy. So if you do your environment first and then you do your characters after, it's possible it's going to be laggy and it's going to be slower. It's going to be more of a pain in the ass. Let's just get the characters and the models and all that stuff out the way first whilst we have good performance. You can also do this with animations. If you have any custom animations, throw them in there, get it all done. If you're doing cinematics, unfortunately, you'll probably have to do it whilst it's laggy. There are potential ways to get around it, like hiding certain parts or deleting parts of the map if you need to. But in general, cinematics are going to have to come afterwards because you need to have your 3D environment done. Now, this is where you're going to want to change the buildings, add new environments, add snow, add water simulations, add whatever you want, change the buildings, have airplanes flying around, whatever. All the stuff that is going to cost a lot of performance is now where you want to do it. So if you want to do explosions, all that sort of stuff, just throw it in. Once that is all done, you've changed your environment, you've got your characters in, you've adjusted the textures, you've set up your cameras and stuff like that. You're going to want to finish off with the lighting. So the lighting is what's going to determine really a lot of how good your scenes are going to look. You could say really it's just a combination of everything. Like your materials need to be pretty on point. And for example, if you have something that needs a certain roughness, if it needs a lot of shine or not, you need to have accurate roughness metrics to produce accurate or a good looking scene. Same for the lighting. If you've got too much light, it's going to oversaturate the image, kill details, and it might just look overblown, maybe bland, loss of sharpness, even like smudging of images, almost like you've like painted over it. It's quite interesting. But yeah, this is when you're going to want to really focus on getting your lighting good, because once you have done this, we're going to start rendering our scene. So after you've done your lighting and you have adjusted your cameras, if you're doing cinematics, of course, if you're using the POV camera, there's not too many adjustments you can do. But anyway, you're going to hit render on your scene, and something important is you're going to want to render using an image output. So I recommend PNG just to get started with. You can change this in the render settings. And the reason why we do this is because, one, if something were to happen, like you were to crash, if Blender were to crash whilst you were rendering, you have a power cut or whatever, you're not going to lose all your rendering progress as if you rendered it in a video file format like MP4. It's going to just delete the current frame that it was working on, but you'll still have all the frames previous. On top of that, if you're more experienced and you know how to use and adjust EXR files, I highly recommend EXR. If you are using EXR, if you're going the free route, I would probably recommend DaVinci Resolve. If you're a baller and you've got some money, I recommend using Nuke. So once you have rendered everything out, you're going to want to throw your image renders into a video editing software. Again, if you're going the complete free route, DaVinci Resolve is probably your go-to. I currently use After Effects / Premiere Pro. Just because DaVinci Resolve was always crashing for me. Otherwise, I'd probably just be using DaVinci Resolve and just keep everything free. But unfortunately, I haven't had that sort of luck. So once you are in your chosen video editing software, I would recommend throwing your clips in. If you need to trim anything, trim down your renders, and you want to fit it to the music. It's not really something I can describe. It's also not something I'm very good at. I will link a video for how to do that in the link in the description down below. I think it's by, I quite enjoyed Coodie's video. Is it Coodie? I can't remember. It'll be down there somewhere. So once you have allocated your clips and stuff and they're in the right place, you'll then want to go back, do your cinematics and transition shots. So if you've video edited, you'll have a bit of blank area and space where you want your cinematics and where you will need transitions, or cinematics just to eat up some time and to make it look cool in between kills. Once you have done that, so once you have all your clips together and your cinematics together and everything like that, you're going to want to start working on your color correction. You can, something I forgot to mention, you can video edit in Blender. You can do color correction and post-processing there. You can also do post-processing in Blender and then take it into any video editing software. So once you have done your color corrections, your effects, transitions, you could add motion graphics if you wanted to. You're going to want to work on your sound effects. Add in the ARP shots. You could add in environmental sounds. If you're in like a forest, add some like birds chirping, maybe a little bit of wind, some trees, just to really allow the viewer to get a feel of where they are, provide that environment for them. If you're doing like slow motion shots, if you decide to velocity something down to slow-mo, use sound design to adjust the sound of the ARP shot. Don't really know how to explain it because I've practically done no sound design myself. But again, sound design can add so much to an edit. Once you have done that, give it a final render, preview your render, make sure it's not choppy, it's not laggy. If something looks off, feel free to adjust it. There's no problem going back into Blender and adjusting something and just chopping it back up. It's very common. It's just take your time with it, enjoy the process, and just produce something that you want to make. And yeah, once the finals render is done, render it out on the quality that you want. Typically, HD is 9020 by 1080, recommended 60 FPS. You could go for 30, some people like that, some people even go for 24 to make it more like a movie. I believe movies are typically shot around 24, could be wrong, but it's between the 24 and like the 30 FPS range, I believe. Anyway, thank you for watching, leave some feedback down below, like the video, goodbye!